everybody! So it's Sunday, that means it's time for family movie night. And this week we are talking about King Kong because we had Kong Skull Island released this week. And so I thought it would be fun to talk about the original 1933 King Kong. I think it's a great film to watch with your family. It's just one of those classics that you should watch and you should know about because it's a great movie. And I did a written review of Kong Skull Island on my blog. Make sure you're subscribed to my blog because there are times when I will just post a review to the blog and there's times I'll just post a review to the YouTube channel. It just depends on what I am available to do. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at King Kong. You can look at it as just a classic monster movie, and it does that very, very well. It has amazing stop motion animation from Willis O'Brien that was groundbreaking in its time. And yes, it kind of looks sort of hokey now compared to obviously what we can do if you go see Kong Skull Island. But the thing that I actually prefer about this compared to what we saw in Kong Skull Island is that all of the creatures all look consistently the same style, and you don't have one that looks kind of great and you know, really vivid and bold, and then you have others that look kind of cheap CG. And here they all look the same. They all look like they're from the same world, and so I never feel like I'm kind of pulled back and forth, and the way they're able to merge the stop motion with the live action is seamless, and that part of it totally holds up. I think it does not feel like there are people kind of standing in front of it wasn't green screen back then, but standing in front of the images that are put behind them. The way they're able to make that work using puppets and using different things, I think it was very brilliant. Then there's this other side to the story that I think is really, really interesting. Well, there's a couple. First, you have Ann Darrow as a character by Carl Denham to be in this movie, and he doesn't really want to have her, but the people demand that the studio execs or whatever demand that they have this sort of damsel in distress. And so it's kind of interesting how it's sort of in a way, a little bit of kind of satire. It's just interesting that you have a character who didn't want to bring on a woman into this dynamic. He wanted something like, in his mind, male character makes it kind of more silly, less credible, more, kind of a thing. But then you also have sort of what ends up happening is that it is Ann Darrow that ends up kind of bonding with Kong and ends up being the one that gets him all of sort of his big moments and gets him and that make everything kind of happen. And then there's also a lot of other interesting dynamics, like for instance at the beginning Anne is picked as a sacrifice for the tribe, and she's strung out like this, and then Kong comes, and what do we see when they have taken Kong to New York? We see him strung out kind of like this. And so I think there's something about the exhibitionists of the sort of culture of our culture, and how, we like to gawk and sort of put things up as sort of sacrificial lambs in a way, and so that's interesting. And then also I think it's interesting when you look at the way that An is sort of treated by Kong. He's this mammoth beast, and yet he loves this little woman, and sort of it kind of brings back some of those sort of old-fashioned ideas of sort of the power of femininity and the power of almost like a magic-like quality to femininity. And you saw that definitely in a lot of the early monster movies and books. If you read the original Frankenstein and you read the original Dracula, especially the original Dracula, is so loaded with sort of female worshipfulness. It's easy to take a theme like that and be like, oh, look, they are prizing womanhood. They are prizing the feminine qualities or whatever, this feminine magic. But in a way, this idea of protection can actually be a sort of another form of misogyny. It's sort of like the opposite of sort of treat women badly. Also sort of the like flip side of that is sort of protect them and hold them onto this sort of platform. And I don't think either one is really all that healthy. And I don't think that this movie actually sort of is vindicating that. I don't think it's actually saying this is the way it should be. I think it's actually kind of using that as I think it's actually kind of trying to make the point that when we treat things this way, it's kind of sad, and that we think we're protecting them. We're protecting Kong, we're protecting An, but in reality, we're actually kind of limiting their freedom, and it's sort of sad. And I think there is sort of a melancholy to this film. I think this is 1933, the time of eugenics, the time of the early sort of rumblings of things like Hitler and Stalinism and things like that, and how easy it is to kind of rationalize the taking away of freedom of things that are bigger and scarier or different or whatever it might be. And we sometimes rationalize this, we're protecting us, we're protecting them, we're protecting whoever it might be. And so it's an interesting sort of dynamic. There are also some people who try to talk about the racial similarities or symbolism, whatever, in King Kong, which is kind of interesting to think about, because here you have this white woman who is sort of prized and protected and everything like that, and you have this giant ape who at the time and in slavery and stuff, many people referred to the African Americans as being sort of more ape-like, and horrible things like that. And you have it's sort of an interesting dynamic on that level as well, and just sort of the prized kind of white woman, that no matter how big and no matter how powerful the black ape in this case, whatever, gets, it's no match for this tiny little white woman, which is kind of an interesting statement for 1933 if you think about it. So I think there's stuff there to sort of think about and ponder it, but it's certainly not a message movie by any means. It's just a fun movie that you can enjoy, but then it also is just iconic enough that I think it says more than just a stupid movie. And I certainly think it's a lot better than this Kong Skull Island that we got, which I really wasn't a big fan of. Again, check my written review. And so check out King Kong with your family. Enjoy it. The score by Max Steiner is also one of the greats. It's so well done. And so yeah, it's a really iconic, amazing movie that you should see. And let me know what you think. Let me know what your kids think. How do they respond to it? I'd be very curious. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye.